just on that point about the outdoor shower. Obviously,
Of course.
obviously, when I heard it with the song, my mind pictured a backyard that was green and fenced, and there was like a worn path through it to a shower at the back for some reason. So what I
Yeah,
pictured in my
that's
head,
what I
I
thought.
didn't
That's what
think
I
of a
had
beach.
envisioned you envisioning and going, what the fuck is the purpose of this? What function does it serve? You know
Of
what I mean?
course,
Don't
as
just
soon as
now
she
it's just
said
like,
like beach, I was like, oh yeah. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles, you bugger. My name's John. His name is Andy. Don't talk to me about heroes. Most of these men sing like serfs. Jesus was a black man. No, Jesus was Batman. No, no, no at all. That was Bruce Wayne. More on that later. But first, we got a track to listen to. Andy, what do you got?
I have a band that I think I've referenced a couple times on the channel and said I would be bringing them to have you check out in the near future. So here we are. The band is called The Front Bottoms. And I'm sure with a name like that, you've probably recalled having heard it before. And the track by them is called Vacation Town. So I assume outside of me having referenced them a couple times, you've never heard of the Front Bottoms.
No,
Okay.
I haven't.
The name like that you wish you had. Please go off and give Vacation Town a listen, and let me know what you think.
I wanna be that comfortable place where you write and read, watch TV.
So we get that sort of clipped, muted, whatever you want to call it, sort of strumming start. That's quite a thing with those sort of like indie, punky, poppy, emo-ish kind of bands from the I'd say mid late 90s, noughties perhaps. But it kind of goes all the way back to Violent Femmes. They have that sound to their first album, which is cool. He says something I want to be, and his accent was just curious there. It was rolling around all over the place. That was really odd. Couldn't quite place it. Let's say that again.
I wanna be that comfortable place where you write and read, watch TV, or deeply breathe. Back to back, you and me feel.
So I just stop it again like twice in 20 seconds. But there's some really that sounded like ghostly knocking on a on like a surface rather than a door. I don't know, or a weird door, but it had a sort of like weird thin echo to it, like it was. I don't know why, but I'm picturing like a cheap hotel. Um, let me just hear that again because that was odd as well.
TV, or deeply breathe. Back to back, you and me feel trapped, never defend, only you be Rachel and I'll be Bong Rips. We'll get high all day. I miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. I miss walking naked through the backyard to get to the outdoor shower. I miss the way things used to be. I miss the way things used to be. It's okay, no one's around. I'm off season, vacation town. Vacation town.
that was quite interesting. So I guess that was the chorus then. We had this sort of climbing musical motif. The drums started like sort of thumping a bit more urgently. And he said, I didn't catch all of it. There's a really nice line. He said, I miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. I guess that's like both senses of morning, and he's maybe sleeping in, but also there's the morning of the person. He mentioned a Rachel earlier, and I just thought of Friends, but it's clearly not that. So I'm guessing he's mourning the absence of the relationship rather than the person. It doesn't quite feel like oh my gosh, she's dead. It's more like, oh my gosh, she's gone sort of song. So he's got that emo-y feel to it as well. And yeah, he lists things, repeated a couple of times how he misses how things used to be. That's just classic whether you after a breakup. There's group vocals in there as well that sort of get emphasis to it. The drums sort of pounding a bit more, and there's a little mini fill and stuff. He did mention that he felt like I heard the title Vacation Town, but before that, I think it said, I'm like an off-season vacation town, which is really interesting. Depending on what sort of, we won't say vacation town in this country, we maybe say holiday town or resort. But depending on what sort of resort, and obviously things are different in the States than they are in the UK, but there's certain places which have a natural beauty, and there's loads of them. The ones I'm more familiar with would be like North Devon coast or Cornwall, west coast of Scotland as well. And those places, particularly Cornwall, I know I've been there in the sort of winter months, and it has this sort of winter beauty about it, slightly harsh, but really stunning still. Whereas East Coast, the UK, England, which I also know, you go to somewhere like Skegness in the winter, and there's this air of desperation, and yeah, even like the sort of old Victorian ones, like the Norfolk coast, like Great Yarmouth or whatever, just has I don't know, there's the unfriendliness to it in the winter, and resentment, I think. Not pleasant places to be. And I guess it's the attraction of the place that draws people in. The horrible sort of, arcades and fun fairs and stuff are just miserable, and when there's a bit of drizzle and a sharp wind off the North Sea. So yeah, that all makes sense. And then we get this trumpet as well coming in, which is really pleasant, and I really appreciated that. All right, let's see how it goes from here.
Everything, lay it all out for me. Feel the breeze with all the windows open in a one-star hotel room. But I could only express my love when I'm fucked up or far.
More knocking just then. It almost sounded like when you slam a shot on a snooker or a pool table, and the ball flips off the cushion and off the table and then goes along the floor. It almost sounded like that kind of weird thin sound to it. Obsessed with the knocking.
Open in a one-star hotel room, but I could only express my love when I'm fucked up or far, far away. Physically another continent, emotionally another headspace. Mentally I'm not even here. I miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. I miss walking naked through the backyard to get to the outdoor shower. I miss the way things used to be. I miss the way things used to be. place where you write and read, watch TV, or deeply breathe.
Back up.
I miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. I miss walking naked through the backyard to get to the outdoor shower. I miss the way things used to be. I miss the way things used to be. It's okay, no one's around. I'm off season, vacation town.
There you go. Yeah, interesting. Quite a simple-ish song, I guess. Has a very much a sort of a young, almost juvenile feel to it, in terms of what he was singing about. Yeah, interesting. But quite catchy. Yeah, it's a nice song. There's nothing not to like about it, I guess. I wouldn't say it captured my imagination, but it's pleasant enough, and yeah, catchy enough as well. Some interesting little bits in there. I'm sure there's some bits which I missed that make this an emotionally devastating song. I don't know, but I know someone who does know. So let's go back and chat with Andy.
All right, so you are back from your little vacation town. What did you make of that track by the Front Bottoms?
Okay, so this starts with that sort of muted, strummed guitar, almost scraped. That's as much percussive as it is melodic.
Yeah.
Your man comes in singing with a curious twang to his accent. I had to rewind it. I want to be in that comfortable place where you read and write. And the syllables are rolling around all over the place like a kayak in white water. Very odd. It is weird accent does calm down, actually. It's just that initial bit. It's like, what the hell is he from? But yeah, interesting. So this kind of, it has this kind of folk punky sound feel to it. And that goes all the way back to Violent Femmes.
Yeah.
But this, as a feel, it's kind of mixed in with a sort of nerdy, or I guess what you might call on your side of the pond, emo. Depending on my mood, I'd either call it confessional or whiny. It's kind of like early Weezer unplugged, if you know what I mean. So we have a good couple of lines, and then we get some ghostly knockings, and the rest of the band show. It's really odd. I don't know, and it happens later on. Something I have no idea. I'm not, in terms of the lyrics or whatever. I don't know why it's doing this knocking thing. I think the first time I said it sounded like the sort of rather than a door, it sounded like a surface. And for some reason, I got in my head in a cheap hotel. And then later on, when it did it sounded like when you're playing pool or snooker and you really ram a shot and the ball leaps off the table and it hits the floor and goes along. It was kind of that sound as well. And it was slightly distant and echoey, like it wasn't in the same room. I still have no idea why. But anyway, so as these ghostly knockings occur, the rest of the band show up, the bass and the drums. There's some mention of You Be Rachel that makes me think of Friends, which is totally wrong. And then this music moves into a kind of like jogging on the spot mode. And there's a lovely little couplet. He says, I miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. And he goes on there for some sort of fixation about running naked for a shower in the garden. There must be some sort of, historic relevance to that because it makes no sense otherwise. I presume that he's using both meanings of the word mourning there, the second one indicating grief for loss. And I guess it's the loss of their relationship rather than an actual loss of a person. I'm not quite getting girlfriend in a coma vibes just yet. Um, so yeah, the music climbs, the drum beat becomes more fervent, and we get some group vocals for emphasis in those lines. He repeats, stroke they repeat, how much he misses how things used to be. And then he compares himself to an off-season vacation town. And it's a really interesting thought. Um, and what you make of that, I guess, depends very much on the town in question, which the term off-season would suggest on the vacation that it's a holiday resort. We would call them like, holiday resorts in this country. Now, I am sure it's different in the US of A. But in the UK, there are many destinations in the which rely more on their natural beauty and stunning scenery. Um, for coastline, the north coast lines of Devon and particularly Cornwall really spring to mind, and I have visited them off season, as it were, and they have incredibly stark, wintry beauty in those cold months, almost like a non-makeup look of a very attractive person is just as stunning. Um, those resorts that rely on attractions, and I know the east coast of England quite well, in contrast, seem very bitter and broken places in the gloom and drizzle of a cold November day. Uh, yeah, they're not pleasant at all. And I could well imagine that what's the one that has the very famous like big word? Is it Coney Island?
Yeah, yeah. And the East Coast is kind of littered with beach towns that fit this bill that you're describing as well. And yeah, Coney Island is certainly one of them. I mean, you go up to the New England has them with like a Nantucket or something like that, which is really beautiful, but also a seasonal place as far as enjoying its beaches and things like that. I just returned from one from North Carolina where you can tell, from our Memorial Day to our Labor Day is this hustle and bustle and booming economy. And then probably on the months outside of that, it's a ghost town where no one's really there, even though the houses are beautiful and the beaches are beautiful. What good's a beach in December or something like that? So yeah, there are lots of places like that, as opposed to the West Coast where it's beautiful year round, so you can relish it longer and it becomes less of this stark contrast that you get.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, anyway, go back to the song. So the drums do a tiny fill at the end of that, and as the titular line is ringing, it's still ringing out. We're treated to some charming little trumpet.
Mm.
Very unexpected. I really enjoyed that. And then we drop back down musically for the next verse. Um, and it's sort of building, and the drum thump is a touch louder and it's a bit more sort of fervent. That ghostly knocking reappears, as I say, for some reason, as he mentions a one-star hotel. So my initial thought about a cheap hotel may or may be on the money. Who knows? And then we go up a gear in the sort of emo stroke whiny quotient. He delivers this quite quickly, so I'm not getting all of it, but it's almost like it's getting off his chest, um, with a sort of a mirror vocal going along with his singing, which is obviously a slight different tone, etc. And it kind of, to me, depicts a little voice inside your head or something. The way it's mirroring it that, and of course he says he's fucked up, and he mentions something about physical presence and emotional headspace and mentally not being there. Okay. So we circle back through the stomping stroke climbing refrain of him missing stuff. And I noticed this time, and I'm sure there wasn't the first time, but I probably missed them, that there's other percussive noises in that mix, some of which sound sort of synthetically manufactured, which gives a bit of texture to it. And I missed the first time, I think. The exit from this chorus comes in with a quite joyful sort of motif from the electric guitar. And for the first note or two, I thought, oh, it's a trumpet again. But it wasn't. But then the trumpet comes back in as if to lend some help and voice to that electric guitar. That was a nice little sort of musical break. And again, we cut to back down to the sort of muted strumming acoustic, which almost has become a trope of those sort of indie pop punk songs of the 90s, late 90s. And of course, the song builds back up with the elements reassembling, like the Avengers, for this climactic denouement. The final sort of chorusy bit, the group voiced chorus, it adds to that whole feeling um, of sort of bringing it all together. Some lovely trumpet as well on the exit, and then we have like a sort of strummy sort of slow down 20 seconds home straight, and then we're done. So yeah, I enjoyed this. It was pretty catchy. I would say it's not something that completely grabbed me or whatever, but it was decent, and it was of a sort of ilk. Uh, um, I would say of that again. I would put it a very kind of American sort of late 90s, early noughties sort of sound. Not that I'm particularly expertise in that sort of thing, but
Mhm.
what you would describe as that sort of coming from a well, Americans say a sort of emo kind of frame of mind, which I guess we had in this country. It was a different musical style, but we would just call them wet. I'm sort of indie kids, Um, but yeah, I mean, people just talking about the unrequited love or whatever has been going on since the dawn of time.
Yeah, right.
Um, and how they can't cope with stuff as well. So yeah, this is an interesting one. I think overall, I think I said the reaction name aside, it sounds quite, and I don't mean this in a pejorative sense, but it sounds quite juvenile, quite youthful in terms of its sound, let alone the sort of the thinking behind it, the lyrics, etc. But it was definitely interesting, sounded great, it was quite catchy. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Right on, right on. Well, I'm glad you gave it a go. I'm glad you enjoyed it for the most part. Yeah, I've seen these guys a couple times in concert. They put on a really great show. This song has always resonated with me as someone who has grown up going to, vacationing in vacation towns. And one of the thoughts I always have when I'm there is, God, I'd love to see what this place looks like in January. Like what is it really like? It's like a whole other side of the coin that no one really ever gets to see. Go ahead.
Sorry, you just made me think of something, which is the weirdest experience I had actually recent in the last few years. So I think I told you we got a place in France. My folks live in France. We got a place, and the town nearby, French property in the rural areas is dirt cheap. Um, for British folks, we managed to get a house for 40 grand, and it's like a big old place. It was unbelievable. So rural French property is dirt cheap. So we got this place nearest town. As you go down the hill and into the town, there's a big hotel, which was empty when we first got the place. Move on sort of 8 or 9 years, it's still empty. And there's like a road that leads up to the hotel, which is abandoned. So I went up there and I parked and I went into the hotel, and it's all its grounds. It's got a tennis court, it's got a swimming pool. These are all grown over and abandoned now. And there's like the tennis net's sagging, and there was even
Yeah.
an umpire's chair next to it, and it all looked really sad. And I actually went in, and parts of the hotel have been vandalized, and there's been kids in there and stuff. But I got in through the kitchens, and there were still trays of cutlery in the kitchens and all this stuff. And I went through into where there would be the, sort of evening's entertainment sort of area and all this. And I got up onto the first floor and started going along and seeing all the rooms, and there were doors kicked in and people slept rough. And there's just the weirdest feeling, this
Yeah.
abandonment.
Yep.
And it's not quite as extreme. I mean, this is more extreme than just, a vacation town in January, but that feeling of this thing no longer having purpose is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
really
Lifeless.
eerie,
It is. Yes.
eerie.
Yeah, you're right.
Uh,
It is a little less to the extreme of, but it is the same sentiment behind witnessing that of like this weird, it doesn't feel right. Where's the life? Where's anything? Like what
yeah,
happened? So yeah, I often spending time at the beach during the summers, I would be like, man, wonder what it is like when there's no one here and how much of a different mood and atmosphere this same exact geographic location would offer just at a different
yeah,
time of the year. And it's interesting the metaphor that he uses, sort of describing himself as that. I always thought was really interesting. And yeah, it's very introspective or emo or whatever, this like how do you cope and all this stuff. But it does make you think and sometimes makes you feel. And so I've always appreciated this song for that. And the Front Bottoms are just a fun group in general, if I'm being honest with you. So to get into them, they are an American rock band from Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey, also a state filled with summertime beach places that are, I'm sure, quite seasonal with the Jersey Shore and all those type of places. So they're currently a duo consisting of lead vocalist and guitarist Brian Sella and drummer Matt Uchech. Now it's funny because he spells his name Uychich. So I wanted to make sure that I always assumed it was Uchech, but I wanted to make sure that that was right. So I went onto a Reddit thread, and this is too funny not to make note of it, but it says the Reddit thread says, "Does anyone know how you spell Matt's or how you pronounce Matt's last name?" And then someone wrote back, YOU/CHECH, like you check. And he goes, "Yeah, I checked. Nothing showed up." Like the person goes, "You've got to be kidding me, right?" So yeah, Matt, you check. During the live performances, they are currently accompanied by touring members, including guitarist and backing vocalist AJ Peacocks, bassist and backing vocalist Natalie Newbold, and bassist, guitarist, and backing vocalist Eric Case Romero. Their music has been described as rock, indie rock, folk punk, while lyrically they've been described as being adjacent to Midwest emo. So you're pretty keen to, I think, pick up on both those things happening there, those sounds. So Sella has stated that the band's inspirations are Blink 182, Say Anything, which we've covered on the channel, Bright Eyes, which we've also covered, the Mountain Goats, which we've also covered, and the state of New Jersey itself, which I try to avoid at all cost. According to Uchek, their only inspiration is the Friends. That's just a joke, Jerseyites. So their inspiration is their Friends. The band also is influenced by Senses Fail and other mid 2000s pop stroke punk bands. The group formed in 2006 in Woodcliff, and in August 2007, after Brian Sella, vocals, guitar, and lyrics, finished their first year at Ramapo College, he and childhood friend Uchek began playing together under the name The Front Bottoms. Soon after, Uchek's brother Brian would join on keyboards and vocals and began sitting in on their practices. Brian asked to join the band, playing on an old keyboard he found in the Uchek family attic. This completed the original lineup with which the first two albums and EP were recorded. The band's name is a reference to the film Sexy Beast, in which Ben Kingsley's character claims he was sexually assaulted by someone who touched his front bottom. Frontman Sella said of it, "This is our name, and if you don't like it, you don't like it." They go ahead.
You know the film.
No, I've never seen it, to be honest with you. No, I know Ben Kingsley though, and I would. Please go on. Your reaction looks like I'm.
It's one of the greatest British films of the last 40 years. Honestly,
Okay.
it's unbelievable. And Ben Kingsley, I mean, it's fucking Gandhi, and
Yes.
Don. I mean, he's like, no, no, no. Oh, it's just I could quote it all day long. He
Okay.
goes because he gets kicked off the plane, refusing to put a cigarette out. He's got a cigarette on, blah, blah, blah. He gets off, and they're talking to him in the police room afterwards, and he goes, "I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to say anything, but it's that steward. He touched me, my front bottom. I went over all cold." It's hilarious. It's just totally making it up.
Yeah, that justifies even more why they chose that line for that film as a funny band name, because that's hilarious. That's a hilarious exchange.
He's one of the most evil characters you'll ever come across, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Okay.
Absolutely brilliant. He should have got an Oscar for that. I mean, 100%.
man.
It's a great film. Check it out if you can. It's brilliant.
I will.
film.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they spent the next few years playing locally around New Jersey and eventually doing extensive tours around the country. In between tours, Sella worked at the ShopRite in Ramsey, New Jersey, and Uchek worked in landscaping. During this time, they put out a self-released album, I Hate My Friends, in 2008. Then they released an EP, Brothers Can't Be Friends, the same year. They released a second album in 2009, My Grandma vs. Pneumonia. Around 2010, the band started writing material for what would become their self-titled album. They released an EP called Slow Dance to Soft Rock, which contained 6 tracks later remastered for the LP. A second EP, Grip and Tie, was planned to be released later that year but was canceled. The songs that were on it were instead combined with the previous EP to produce an entire album. On June 2nd, 2011, the band had announced that they signed with Bar None Records and would release their self-titled debut studio album on September 6th of 2011. As of late 2010, Brian Uchek left the band to concentrate on school full-time. The Front Bottoms replaced Uchek with new touring musician Drew Villafuerte, who played bass in addition to keyboards. In 2012, Villafuerte stopped touring with the band as well, citing the extensive touring as too difficult. He was replaced by Tom Warren and Kieran O'Donnell. On March 2013, the band released the video for Twin Size Mattress on YouTube in the promotion for their next record. Their second studio album, Talon of the Hawk, was released on May 21st, 2013. On June of the next year, the band released a 6-song EP, Rose. The EP was named after Matthew Uchek's grandmother, Rosemary, who is depicted in the cover art. In June 2015, it was announced that they had signed to a label Fueled by Ramen. The Front Bottoms released their third studio album, Back on Top, on September 18th, 2015. Preceded by the single Raining, the band released their fourth studio album, Going Gray, on October 13th, 2017. In an interview in February of 2018, Sella confirmed the release of the Anne EP, the second in the Grandma series. So they're releasing all these EPs like named after one of their grandmothers, which I think is actually kind of sweet. The EP was released on May 18th, 2018 via Fueled by Ramen, and a music video for the final song, Tie-Dye Dragon, was released on March 16th. On July 3rd of 2020, the band announced their album In Sickness and in Flames and released the song Montgomery Forever with its video. On August 14th, 2020, they released the song Fairbanks, Alaska, and the album on August 21st, 2020. In September of 2022, the band released the Teresa EP with 5 re-recorded versions of unreleased fan favorites and oldies that serve as the third installment of the band's popular Grandma EP series. On April 17th of 2023, the band released the song Outlook along with an accompanying music video. At the same time, the band announced that their next album, You Are Who You Hang Out With, would be released August 4th of 2023. On April 25th, they announced a tour for the album starting on August 1st, 2023, including an album release show at Red Rocks Amphitheater the night of the album release. Supporting acts included Kevin Devine and the Goddamn Band. Now, if that sounds at all vaguely familiar to you, Kevin Devine is one half of Bad Books. So when you checked out Bad Books, he's one of the more diminutive of the two, Andy Hall being the other that performs. So I actually saw the Front Bottoms open for Bad Books as well as Manchester Orchestra on 2 different occasions. But one of them was at Webster Hall in Manhattan, and it was an amazing show. I really enjoyed that one. This track that I had you listen to, Vacation Town, is featured on their 2017 album, the aforementioned Going Gray. The album reached number 47 on the US Billboard 200 chart, number 8 on the US Top Rock Albums chart, and number 6 on the US Top Alternative Albums chart. And over at Metacritic, the album has earned an aggregate score of 78 out of 100. Madison Gomes of the journal Rewired reviewed the album and wrote, "Overall, I'd give the album 5 stars out of 5 stars. It's experimental with new instruments in different places, brought to life sounds that I thought wouldn't fit, incorporated lyrics that don't make sense but at the same time do. For these reasons, I believe this is a relatable album that anyone with a pair of headphones, an open mind, and an open heart can express themselves through." Bree Vane of online publication Wall of Sound scored the album an 8.5 out of 10 and wrote in her review, Tracks like Raining and Far Drive end up sounding significantly more mature as a result of the cleaner approach. This is set in contrast to Don't Fill Up on Chips, which, due to the rough approach, sounds a lot younger. But if you listen to the subject matter of these tracks, you'll hear that the choice of a clean or rough sound fits the nature of the lyrics. Each song set the atmosphere of the story before lyrics can even come into play. The clever bastards have used the variation of sound as another storytelling element in such a subtle yet genius way, and you can't help but want to deeply analyze each individual song. I tip my hat to them. Of this track, she would add, Vacation Town is a particular standout, perfectly balancing the familiar acoustic sound with a brass section of all things. The truly bittersweet subject matter is coupled perfectly with a mixture of both rough and clean tones that serve as a solid introduction to what you're in for within the album. So it was definitely a well-chosen single. And Dorian Taylor of the University of Massachusetts Connector graded the album an A minus and wrote, in the past, the Front Bottoms may have been a quirky band that could only capture a cult fan base, but today the band has evolved their style into music that can be enjoyed by a broader audience. Their singing and instrumentation has sharpened. Their songwriting is more cohesive, and their style is more solidified. Going Gray is the group's best album to date, and with the band members having found their sound, even better albums can be expected in the future. So let's jump into these interesting lyrics. I want to be that comfortable place where you write and read, watch TV, or deeply breathe, back to back. You and me feel trapped. Never defend, only attack. You'll be Rachel and I'll be Bong Rips. We'll get high all day. I'll miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. I miss walking naked through the backyard to get to the outdoor shower. So, explaining that part, a lot of beach homes will have an outdoor shower closer to the home, but between the home and the actual beach. And you go in there and you strip off all your bathing suit and towels and shit and wash the sand off of you, and then wrap your towel around you and run in and grab an actual shower. It just stops, mitigates the sand from getting into the house or whatever, you know what I mean? So, I've actually, when I hear that line, I'm like, I can remember doing something akin to this. So, I miss the way things used to be. I miss the way things used to be. It's okay. No one's around. I'm off season vacation town. Vacation town. I want to see everything, lay it all out for me, feel the breeze with all the windows open in a one-star hotel room. But I could only express my love when I'm fucked up or far, far away. Physically, another continent. Emotionally, another headspace. Mentally, I'm not even here. I miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. I miss walking naked through the backyard to get to the outdoor shower. I miss the way things used to be. I miss the way things used to be. It's okay. No one's around. I'm off-season vacation town. Vacation town. I want to be that comfortable place where you write and read, watch TV, or deeply breathe. I miss the hours in the morning and you in the morning hours. I miss walking naked through the backyard to get to the outdoor shower. I miss the way things used to be. I miss the way things used to be. It's okay. No one's around. I'm off season vacation town. So Bob Boylan oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, please.
Just on that point about the outdoor shower, obviously,
Of course.
obviously, when I heard it with the song, my mind pictured a backyard that was green and fenced, and there was like a worn path through it to the shower at the back for some reason. So what I pictured in my
That's
head.
what I thought.
I didn't
That's
think
what
of
I
a
had
beach.
you envisioning and going, what the fuck is the purpose of this? What function does it serve? You know
Of
what I mean?
course, as soon as you said like beach, I was like, oh yeah, but yeah. So there you go.
Exactly.
That was funny.
So, Bob Boylan over at NPR reviewed the track and sat down and interviewed frontman Brian Sella and wrote, there's a brutally honest, witty, and confessional new song from the Front Bottoms, one of my all-time favorite live bands. The group's heart and humor shine on Vacation Town, a song written and sung by Brian Sella. It comes from the band's upcoming record, Going Gray, and as the title suggests, it's a reflection on recognizing your entrance into adulthood while the more innocent, carefree self is staring over your shoulder. The song is a metaphor for a state of emotional comfort and nostalgia, contrasting with a more current, off season feeling of missing past joys and seeking a more vibrant way of life. The narrator looks back on these vacation town times, whether they were periods of happiness with a person or a time of moving out, and expresses a longing to return to a more fulfilling existence. Um, and probably a more innocent one too. The way you looked at things through child eyes are very different than how you look at them. Sometimes the very same things through adult eyes. That innocence or whatever gets stripped away, and it's. I think that's also kind of what he's trying to illustrate here. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and when you look back through things, you want to recapture what it was like to feel it at 10, 11 years old. And it's just an impossible grasp. You're never going to recapture that. You know what I mean? I think the song is kind of coming to grips with that. Which now at fucking 42, I'm well over, but I do remember going through this phase that I think I alluded to it recently, that limbo period between your youth and, your unmitigated march to the grave. So this is kind of hanging in between that gray area, which is an interesting way to illustrate it, considering the album is going gray. But yeah, thanks for giving this a listen, John. I appreciate your thoughts on this. Outdoor shower hiccup notwithstanding, I'm glad you enjoyed it, gave it a go. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of the Front Bottoms and this track Vacation Town. I'd be interested to hear what y'all have to say. If there's other stuff, if you're a fan, there's other stuff by these guys you want me to throw John's way, please feel free to shout it down in the comments field below. Also, please, if you haven't, like, share, and or subscribe, do all those things. We really do appreciate it. Doesn't cost you anything but a couple clicks and a couple seconds. And so thank you very much in advance. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.